Both Indonesia and Western Australia share very close ties and are seeking collaborations, particularly in the sustainable industry and clean energy shift. To talk more about this, I'm joined with His Excellency Mr. Bill Johnston, who is Western Australia's Minister for Mines and Petroleum, Energy, Hydrogen Industry and Industrial Relations, who is here in Jakarta, Indonesia, to attend some of the ASEAN summits and to visit with some Indonesian officials as well. Your Excellency, Minister Bill Johnston, thank you so much for speaking to SEA today.
Thank you very much for the chance to explain what's happening.
Right, so as I understand, this is the largest Western Australian delegate in history.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about the purpose, specifically about your goals in Indonesia?
Yeah, so the Premier, the Senior Minister in Western Australia, is leading a delegation of 130 business and government leaders to Jakarta, Surabaya and Denpasar. And the delegation's purpose is to deepen our relationship with industry and the community here in Indonesia. As Minister for Energy and Minister for Mines and Petroleum, I'm very keen to talk about the energy transition that we all know we need to respond to climate change. So both in the deployment and use of renewable energy, but also just as importantly, in the new and developing battery industry.
Right, so tell us more about those collaborations in sort of clean energy and also electric battery as well. Between Western Australia and Indonesia, can you just explain what the cooperations are so far?
So we've been very fortunate to have signed a memorandum of understanding with KADIN for the development of a close cooperation on battery and critical mineral supply chains. We've following that up with an operational plan, and we're trying to do practical steps to bring our relationship together. Indonesia has an exciting future as it transitions to manufacturing of electric vehicles here. It's one of the it's the world's largest supplier of nickel, but it doesn't supply lithium. In Australia, Western Australia, we are the world's largest supplier of lithium. So it seems that Indonesia and Western Australia are a match made in heaven to bring together processed lithium hydroxide out of plants in Western Australia to combine with processed nickel here in Indonesia to then make batteries here in Indonesia for the electric vehicle industry for supply to other markets. So it's a real opportunity to add value both in Australia and in Indonesia to then export to the world so that we help the world get to decarbonisation.
Can you maybe speak into more detail about those practical steps? Are we talking about more lithium being exported from Western Australia, or how's it going?
Yes, what we're seeking to do is build relationships between the potential users of batteries here in Indonesia, principally the car industry, and companies in Australia that provide lithium, so that we can do the onshore processing of the lithium in Western Australia and then partner that into processed nickel here from Indonesia, because you need both lithium and nickel for a battery, and then industry here in Indonesia can use those batteries to make electric vehicles, electric motorcycles, other goods for export to the world. It's an exciting opportunity. Jobs here in Indonesia, jobs and value add in Australia as well.
Is there an estimation maybe on when these concrete collaborations can begin?
Well, we're at the exploratory stage right now, but we would expect, very soon, the next year or two, that we can see practical step forward. Indonesia is currently building a very large industry in the nickel business, and we think that's an ideal partnership for that next step down into manufacturing batteries using those chemical products from Western Australia.
What are the economic prospects of this collaboration between Western Australia and Indonesia in producing electric vehicle batteries, maybe in terms of value?
Well, the good news is because Indonesia has such large quantity of nickel, it's going to be cheaper to produce the nickel here, process it into the form that's needed to make a battery, and then make the battery here, so you don't have to transport material, unprocessed material, long distances. And of course, Western Australia and Indonesia are very close together, so the shipping costs of moving the lithium chemical from Western Australia to Indonesia is much lower and the carbon footprint smaller than needing to move the same chemical from Western Australia to, say, Japan or Korea. So there's a big advantage, there's a big upside for industry in Indonesia, to create jobs in Indonesia, but also to support our economic development in Western Australia at exactly the same time.
Right. Now, let's talk about the hurdles, because Indonesia is developing its downstreaming industry, especially for nickel. However, there have been some parties, challenging that process. Indonesia has banned the export of raw nickel and so forth. How does Western Australia perceive this? And
well, we're also a very big producer of nickel. We're not as large a producer as Indonesia, but we don't see ourselves as a competitor in this story, because there'll be battery industries elsewhere in the world, and we're happy to look for partnerships there as well. But this is an ideal partnership. We're very close together. It's closer to come from Perth to Jakarta than it is for me to go from Perth to Sydney. We really are the ideal partner, and we can benefit both Indonesian industry to create the jobs that are needed here, at the same time supporting industry in Western Australia. It just seems to fit together, and I think that's why Cardin and President Jokowi are so keen to see this collaboration.
do you see that as a sort of a challenge, though? Of course, Indonesia's process of developing its nickel downstreaming industry being challenged by the World Trade Organization.
Yeah, well, look, I don't play that international politics game. I'm just interested in finding people that want to partner with Western Australia, and Indonesian industry is making it clear that that's what they want to do. We've got lots of other opportunities to partner. In the renewable energy sector, we have a state-owned enterprise in Western Australia called Horizon Power. It provides electricity for the remote parts of Western Australia. Now, those communities are usually in the middle of the desert, but if you think about it, it's the same challenge as providing services in eastern Indonesia, where the islands, smaller population on the islands over in the eastern end of Indonesia are. And so you could use the technologies, share lessons, train workers in Western Australia for the use in the eastern islands of Indonesia to provide electricity and water and other infrastructure in the eastern islands. So again, a real opportunity for collaboration and partnership.
All right, so aside from electric vehicle batteries and critical minerals, there are many other clean energy projects Western Australia is seeking with Indonesia?
Absolutely. We think that again, there's a lot of opportunity for skills development, technology transfer, taking lessons from both sides. Indonesia has a strong IT industry, and we think we could share technology from Indonesia, and there's other technologies that we think we have that we'd love to collaborate with Indonesia on.
Okay, great. And this clean energy shift is obviously, it's not just Western Australia and Indonesia. The ASEAN bloc itself is also really serious about this, especially on electric vehicles. Now, earlier this year in the 42nd ASEAN Summit in Labuan Bajo, ASEAN leaders adopted a declaration saying that they're serious in developing a regional electric vehicle ecosystem. What are Western Australia's thoughts on that, and maybe any opportunities to collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a car industry in Western Australia, so we don't think that we're a rival to the projects here in Southeast Asia, but we do have these specific critical minerals, for example, rare earths, that are not available from other places. So we do think there's these opportunities for value add in Australia to help Southeast Asia, ASEAN on its decarbonisation journey. We know that we need capital, so we're very interested in Indonesian investment into Australia, and we're also very keen to see whether there's projects that Australian capital can partner here in Indonesia and the rest of ASEAN as well.
Right, so there's large optimism regarding Indonesia and ASEAN from Western Australia.
Yeah, look, I mean, we have a successful economy in Western Australia, but we do admire the growth here in Indonesia. We do see the fact that Indonesia is expected to be the 5th largest economy in the world in only 20 years' time, And so we want to be part of that growth and share our understanding and listen and take account of the needs and desires of Indonesia at the same time.
All right, just very lastly, can you just tell us more about your other plans in the rest of your trips to Indonesia?
Sure. So I'm only here for the Jakarta leg of the travel. However, the delegation itself will go to Surabaya on Tuesday afternoon and have a few days. East Java is Western Australia's sister state, and we've had a very long-term sister state relationship. In fact, when the delegation is in Surabaya, we'll re-sign another commitment to our sister state relationship, and then the delegation will go on to Denpasar and have some collaboration there with the government in Denpasar before returning to Western Australia at the end of the week. So it's 130 delegates, largest delegation ever to leave Western Australia for a business forum, and we're very pleased by the level of engagement we've had with Indonesian business and government as well.
All right, well, we are looking forward to hearing more about those collaborations between Western Australia and Indonesia, especially in the clean energy shifts, very important right now.
Well,
Minister
thank you very much.
Bill Johnston, thank you so much for speaking to See Today.
Terima kasih.
Thank you. Terima kasih. Thank you.